Well, if you haven't heard, the government is currently shut down. The two parties couldn't come to an agreement on the federal budget, as Democrats are pushing to extend a tax credit that applies to health insurance premiums from the Affordable Care Act, so the government is officially shut down. It seems like everyone is currently trying to blame the other side, and it's really not helpful at all since the country's already divided as it is, and a blame game isn't going to help. In this video, we're going to focus on the real-world impacts of this shutdown on average Americans. Everyone knows that a government shutdown is not good, but there are certain consequences that we only knew of during the last shutdown once it passed the 1-month mark. So in this video, we're going to cover 3 examples of those consequences that I found pretty interesting. The first impact is related to a shortage in air traffic controllers. In 2019, after a month-long government shutdown, air traffic controllers finally hit their breaking point, and just a few of them started to take sick leave, which blew up the entire system. According to the FAA and NPR, that small change with a few air traffic controllers starting to take more sick leave, that change was enough to disrupt the whole system.
This is the ultimate in domino effects. If something's going wrong in Atlanta, or if there are major delays, it disrupts air travel all throughout the country and parts of the world.
As a result, on January 25th, 2019, flights were limited out of LaGuardia and other airports in New Jersey and Florida.
Well, the government shutdown is leading to delays at some of the country's major airports. The FAA said they experienced a slight increase in air traffic controllers calling out sick at 2 facilities. The controllers are part of thousands of federal workers who have been working without pay. And as a result of the sick calls, there were delays at airports in New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, even Tampa, Florida.
And the shutdown actually ended on the same day as an agreement was reached to temporarily fund the government. Now, we don't know if the air traffic issues were the sole reason that an agreement was reached, but it's hard to ignore that coincidence.
Thank you very much, my fellow Americans. I am very proud to announce today that we have reached a deal to end the shutdown and reopen the federal government.
Now, this was back in 2019. Now it's 2025, and the FAA is in a very different position. The air traffic controller shortage is much worse now, even before any type of shutdown. Nick Daniels, president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, said back in March of this year, "We currently have 10,800 certified professional controllers, where we need to have 14,633. Any hiccup, a government shutdown, or anything that disrupts the pipeline of air traffic controllers coming in will absolutely hurt the capacity of the flying public and how many planes we can put in the air at any given time safely." So it seems like the nightmare scenario described by the association's leader back in March is playing out now, as we're facing a government shutdown that could last for months. We will have to keep an eye on this situation and see just how long the shutdown lasts and just how the air traffic controller situation is going, to see if flights can be operated safely. Now, the second example is related to the USDA and its relationship with farmers.
2018 was a stressful year for many farmers as a trade war with China caused the price of soybeans to plummet. Now, a partial government shutdown has some farmers worried they may not get government subsidies to offset the money they lost due to the changing market.
In the last shutdown, the USDA and the Farm Service Agency were shut down, so farmers didn't have access to subsidies or any emergency loans and any type of low interest loans that you can only get from the government. So they had to go and borrow money from private sources, which charge a higher interest rate, which increases their costs. Now, just like during the last shutdown in late 2018 and early 2019, this is happening at a particularly bad time for farmers. They are once again dealing with tariffs, a trade war, and declining exports.
The supply was huge and that demand wasn't there anymore, so the price just plummeted there.
I just would like to see somebody help us get our markets back. We need our exports and we just need to be paid for what we do, and that's not happening, and we're in real trouble.
So now, on top of this terrible situation, they're facing a government shutdown, which limits any type of support that they would usually get.
Employees with the U.S. Department of Agriculture have been furloughed, so that also means farmers cannot get low-interest loans they may need to plan for next season.
Anything that you have borrowed that you want to pay back, you're just going to keep collecting interest on that and not be able to pay them back. Or if you're wanting to borrow, the funds aren't going to be available.
Ludwig says needed data charting supply and demand for next season is also out of reach.
A prolonged government shutdown will be the straw that breaks the camel's back for a lot of farmers across the country. Now, the third example is limiting the investigative abilities of the FBI and the ATF. The FBI Agents Association said during the last shutdown they were hindered in their ability to continue their investigative work into terror groups and drug cartels. According to The Independent, the Joint Terrorism Task Force coordinator said, "We have lost several sources who have worked for months and years to penetrate groups and target subjects. These assets cannot be replaced." Since the FBI is not receiving funding during a government shutdown, they can't pay money to a source to keep them safe or just to bribe them for additional information. There was even an example of agents who were investigating the brutal international gang known as MS-13 who needed a Spanish translator and didn't have one in their division. So during the government shutdown, they had to do three-way calls between them and their informant, where they had a third-party interpreter from another division. So it just shows how inefficient that makes them and severely limits their investigative abilities. And on the more human side of the issue, we're talking about thousands of FBI agents who are not receiving any payments for months. So they have to support their families by digging into their savings and their retirement plans.
Every family in the FBI has mortgages, car payments, bills that come in at the end of the month, and you have to pay those. Try doing that without a paycheck. Nothing has gone into any of our personal checkbooks, and we still have to make payments on our daily life.
This will also limit the investigative abilities of these agencies, since their agents will be preoccupied thinking about how they're going to pay their rent this month.
Realistically, FBI agents should not have to go work at a store stocking shelves because they can't feed their families on their government job. They're still working 50 plus hours a week. So when are they going to find time to go get that second job?
It's hard to overstate the potential impacts of limiting the investigative abilities of intelligence agencies and federal law enforcement agencies. These agencies are investigating national security threats as well as massive criminal organizations. To sum it up, we're facing potential cancellations and delays at major airports across the country, an increase in farmer bankruptcies, and a decline in the investigative abilities of intelligence organizations and federal law enforcement agencies. There will also be about 800,000 federal employees who are going to be furloughed, so they're not receiving any payments. Considering how divided this country is and how much the two parties despise each other, I suspect this shutdown will last a lot longer than people expect, unless the Republicans use their nuclear option and just force the bill through, which would, be a much worse situation in the years to come. One thing I want to emphasize is there's a lot of anti-government sentiment that's growing in the country right now, and I think a government shutdown is a perfect way to illustrate just how important the government is and how interconnected it is with your day-to-day life. So that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe below, and I'll see you on the next one.